All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another live series. This month is all about wealth and legacies, fathers building wealth. If this is your first time here, I'm Denetra Johnson, also known as the House Dealer. I'm a Metro Detroit realtor and investor, and I use this platform to bring real conversations about building wealth. Each week, I'm bringing on experts who are actually in the field doing the work. And tonight, we're talking about building wealth through real estate with buy and hold investment method. Tonight's guest is someone who has become a respected resource in the Metro Detroit real estate community. Michael Wright is an experienced investor with over 100 real estate transactions under his belt, a Section 8 specialist, a father, and the co-founder of Black Detroit. One thing I really respect about Mike is his desire to help educate the community by building wealth. So drop y'all questions below and we'll get them answered during the live. Mike, welcome to the live. And
Thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
no problem. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate investing.
Yeah, so as Nisha said, my name is Mike Wright. I'm a native Detroiter. I was somebody that I really grew up in the city at a time that it was Black Detroit. It was Black Detroit. I graduated high school in '03, so it was a fun time. I always say I was literally the last generation to go through the majority of my school without like social media, right? I remember Facebook coming out when I was in college. So
Mhm.
it was a whole different time period. And it was before the crash, the big recession of '08. I graduated college in '08. And
Ooh.
so when everything happened with the real estate market, Detroit was like nowhere to be. Everybody was trying to leave, right? Including myself. Like I left also. I ended up getting a job in corporate at one of the major automotive companies. And they moved me to Colorado, and I was in Arizona, then I was in Tennessee. And I'm like, man, I'm moving around and I'm constantly still keeping an eye on Detroit. What's going on in Detroit? And I'm just hearing like, all right, prices just going down, down, down. I'm like, dang. But I'm looking at the houses in these other areas. I'm just always noticing because I pay attention to details. I'm like, yo, these houses are not built like the houses in Detroit. They don't have nearly as many brick homes that we have. A lot more vinyl siding. It's just, they look nice, but they're not as durable. And it just I felt a very strong desire, like I have to get back to Detroit because I gotta get in while the prices are low enough for me to just go in and go crazy. And so when I got back in 2012, and I immediately just started buying, for better or for worse, because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, right? But I bought my first house. And that was the house that I was gonna live in. And it was a pivotal point in my life because before I came, I was looking downtown. I had a condo off the water picked out. I had a little Camaro picked out. Like I had a whole vision. I'm about to stunt. I'm about to let these boys know I'm getting a little bit of change. And I literally felt like it was like God just told me like, no, don't do that. Like go ahead and get that big house. And I'm like, I don't need a big house right now. This is right. This is before I was married. I didn't have any kids, but I felt a very strong desire to go ahead and get the house. So when I got the house in a neighborhood that I knew wasn't going anywhere, I'm like, all right, I'm in this big house. And I started looking around. I'm like, I got to figure out what to do because it's too big.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I thought about who do I know that's like extremely reliable. You know what I'm saying? And it was two people I thought about. I thought about my cousin Ryan and my brother Black.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's somebody I played football with. He was my roommate. I knew he would pay his bills because that's what we was doing at college. I talked to him. He told me, like, listen, I want to go down to Houston. He wasn't trying to stay. I said, listen, bro, go ahead. Wish you well. So I said, all right, I got one option. I had one option. So I oversold it to my cousin, man. I was like, listen, bro, you in that apartment, you know what I'm saying? I said, listen, why don't you just come move in here? You get access to the whole house. You know, we share the kitchen, the common spaces, but we'd chop your rent down, they chop my mortgage down. And I was house hacking before I understood what it was, right?
Mm.
And I hope I'm not stealing none of your thunder, but that's kind of how, you know, I got started in my real estate journey.
Okay, all right, that's cool. So what was your first? You said was it a multifamily? This was your first property, or was it just a
No,
single?
yeah, it was just a big 4 bedroom, almost 3,000 square foot house
Okay,
that, you know, it's just a big house it was a lot of house, too much house for me at the time, right? And
mm-hmm,
but I understood I was fairly not so far removed from college, like so I was used to having a roommate anyway. So I'm like, okay, cool. You get a room, it's basically like the east wing because the house is so
mm-hmm,
big. Like, bro, you got your whole side, I got my whole side. It's good, you know. And so it wasn't a multi-family. It was just my primary house. But I
okay,
understood before I understood the term house hacking, I just knew, all right, I have to have a house to live in, right? You all have to have shelter.
mm-hmm,
How can I accomplish getting shelter for myself, but also reducing um my payment burden? So what I did was the payment that I was saving, I just put that in a whole different bank account and just started stacking that money up.
okay, all right. So how did you get into the buy and hold method? I know that you be doing that a lot.
Yeah. So for me, once again, like I said, we got to remember the time frame where it's still 2012, 2013. It might have been 2013 at this point. Yeah, 2013. I was about to get married.
Mm-hmm,
I was working a steady job. I was working in corporate, so I was making over 6 figures. Had pretty good income. For me, understanding how women work and my wife specific, my future wife at the time, I said for me to even have a conversation about doing this full time, I knew I had to have at least a plan on how I could match what I was making in corporate. And so I looked at flippers, and one thing about flipping is it is up and down. Like it ebbs and flows a lot. Like I know some flippers, you catch them on the right day, they look like they making all the money. They just living the best life.
mm-hmm,
But you catch them on the wrong day, and it's looking tight out here. You know what I'm saying? They're looking stressed out, and it's just like, man, because every time you flip that property, you know, it's kind of like, all right, what am I gonna do for the next 3, 4, 5 months while I'm trying to secure my food?
mm-hmm,
And me just being a person that I don't really like surprises when it comes to my money. I'm like, all right, how can I try to get as much consistency and remove the uncertainty as much as possible? And so for me, it always pointed back to that buy and hold because at least with okay, I'm like, okay, if I want to make 6 figures, let's say bottom line, just quick and dirty math, if I need to bring in $1,000 per door,
mm-hmm,
I need at least 10 doors.
mm-hmm,
All right, then we know everything is not going to be perfect. We're not going to hit a home run every time we go to base. So I got to put a little buffer in there. I got to put a little contingency. So that 10 doors quickly increased to 12 doors. So
mm-hmm.
initially, that was always my initial goal. All right, if I got to get to 12 doors, how many doors is my goal each year? And how long is it going to take me to accomplish that goal?
Mm-hmm. Okay. How many properties do you have right now? If you
Yeah, no, I don't mind saying that. I'm holding 20 doors.
okay, all right, all
Yeah.
right.
And it's you know, it is what it is. You know, it's not I always say I don't have the largest portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
but what I do have is I believe in ownership, I believe in equity. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, just for the people that are watching, early in this game, I was just like everybody else. I used to get fascinated with the amount of doors. When people, oh, I got 50 doors, I got 80 doors, I got 100 doors. But
Mm-hmm.
then when I started realizing and started hearing like some of the cash flow they were making each door, I'm like, that's not really making sense to me. Like, if you have 100 doors, but you're making $100 cash flow per door versus you having 30 doors, but
Mm-hmm.
you're clearing more like 850 or 900 cash flow because of how you set up your acquisition process. To me, is like you can accomplish a lot more, have a lot less responsibility, a lot less headaches, by just doing quality buys. And so, for me, I think, as a growth, a stretch growth plan, eventually, we may get up to 35, 40, 45 doors if it makes sense to.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm slowing it down on this part, because I really want people to understand, like, it's not what you're going towards, it's the lifestyle that you want to accompany what your goals are, right? Because I was a hard charger just as much as anybody else. Man, I used to chase that money like it was no tomorrow. I was working 10-hour days corporate, and I would come home and put in another 4 hours just on the real estate. So in between there, I was squeezing in some family time. And I'm like, dang, COVID was a huge eye opener for me. I think for a lot of people, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody did COVID differently, right? And the first 6 months was just pure madness. I had two very, very small kids. But after that first 6 months, we were forced to just acclimate and adjust. So, every Friday we would go down to Belle Isle. We would go pick up a pizza, go down to Belle Isle. We just have a little picnic, because we had to get the boys out the house. So we were just doing that, we were taking walks in the middle of the day. We're like, all right, we got to keep these boys active, taking walks through the neighborhood in the middle of the day. And once I realized how much time that I actually got back, I knew I could never go back into that corporate grind the way I used to before. It just can't be like that anymore. Because it's like once you hear that bell, I can't unhear that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So how many properties did you have before you started seeing real, profit momentum?
That's a good question. For me, I would say five.
Okay.
I would say five. And mind you, keep in mind, this is me still working a job. I had those five while I was still making a pretty decent salary in corporate. And the reason why I keep stressing that is because I get a lot of questions about entrepreneurship, right? I'm a
Mhm.
full-time entrepreneur. My wife is a full-time entrepreneur. She's been that since 2021. I've been full-time entrepreneur since 2022. Been an entrepreneur since 2012, but full-time entrepreneur since 2022. And I think it's a term that we can easily romanticize. Oh man, you get to call your own shots. You get to do what you want to do. But the reality is that's not really what the day to day looks like. To be honest, I actually work a lot harder now than I did when I was in corporate. Corporate was easy. I had a system for that. But going back to your question, the reason why I would say five properties is because your first one is, to me, is the most. No, I say your first two are the most important because
Mhm.
that's just getting you in the game. That's like actually realizing, like, yo, I might actually be able to do this. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because before your first two, you believe it, but you don't have the data to justify it yet.
Mhm.
And so when you get two in your bag, you're like, yo, I'm actually doing some stuff. I might have got a couple service calls. You feeling like you in the game. You're not really making a lot of money, but you actually you're doing some things that real landlords do, and it's putting your mental software in a place where it's like, okay, I see what this is going to take. Reason
Mhm.
why I say your first five is because up until five, if something major comes up like a furnace, a roof, a tree, like these are things that can wipe out your whole, like you could be saving and making a little bit of profit for 12 months. And
Mhm.
if you get a big major expense, that can just completely just wipe you out. And you could feel like utterly defeated. And I'm saying this from personal experience. Like I was cash flowing my first few properties and just straight cash flow. And every time something went out, I used to dread like looking at my phone. Like, oh
Mhm.
my God, please don't be a first. Please don't be a first. Oh, I got it. My basement backing up a little. I need it. Okay, cool. It's just a snake. That ain't cool. That's gonna cost me about 175. I can take that, But once you get about five, you kind of you've been a little battle tested, and you kind of have a little system, and those little capital expenses that come up. Hopefully, you've learned to add that into your initial budget, so it won't be as much of a dramatic surprise. You're like, you know what, we built this into the plan, and if it doesn't happen, cool. It's a little cherry on top. I made a little bit extra money. But if something does happen, it's not going to just wipe out, your cash flow. So I would say about five is if you buy it right, though.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what I said about the doors? Like, this is a tricky question. This is why I always try to slow this down, because I get it. It's like the scoreboard, like us watching the Knicks game and the Spurs. Hey, who won? What was the score? Everybody want to hear about that, but it was so much that happened in between that. Like, I say five based on the way I purchase my properties. And I'm doing a lot of savings up front. I'm putting a lot of my own capital into that. I'm not the one that, not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm not the one that recommends your first properties, you're immediately just, running up the business credit, and you just mortgage this, and you use that profit to go pay the other refi. Not saying it can't be done. That just wasn't my route. And I can't, authentically sell something that I just haven't done. And that's just hasn't been my road to success.
Mm-hmm. What I was trying to say. So, are majority of your properties single families, or do you have multi-families too?
I've had multi-families, but the majority of my properties are single families.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know if that was like the original design, because I was in a program called Capital Impact Equitable Development Initiative. Matter of fact, this is where I met Evan at.
Mm-hmm.
And Evan, my business partner in the Block brand, he's very heavily leveraged in commercial.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really like dealing with the single family homes. He doesn't like necessarily being a landlord to single family tenant. Me, because the way I look at it, my approach, they are single families, because I look at the people first. I like when I say, rebuilding Detroit one house at a time, I really mean that. And to me, Detroit is a unique city where you have a unique opportunity of having a single family home.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you living, like some cities, you don't have an option. Like New York is an example. You're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to be in an apartment. It's
Mm-hmm.
a really good chance, and you're going to have somebody above you, below you, on that side of you, and that side of you. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you live in an apartment, you understand, like, it's just a different experience. It's cool when you're in college and you don't mind, you up late, you ain't really got, too much of a schedule. But when you have like newborn babies, you got to be cognizant. Oh, man, I just got the baby to sleep. I don't want to wake the baby up. Or, if you want a dog in the backyard. So I think that's been a part of the reason why I stay in the single family home market, even though, there's been a lot of opportunities for me to look at, commercial or just multi-families. And it's other reasons why, I've kind of not done those deals. But yeah, I specialize in the single family homes.
Okay, all right. So when you purchase your properties, are these properties usually updated, or do you buy them and then fix them up, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, absolutely not. My
Mm-hmm.
properties, man, I like ugly properties, and that's just been kind of my wheelhouse, because
Okay.
I look at it where that's where I make my money at. You know what I'm saying? Because if a property is updated, that's another term, like turnkey property. And
Yeah.
I know because you've been out there. You know what some of these. That's a very it's a lot of gray area in that, right? What
Mm-hmm.
defines a turnkey or updated property? Because you're essentially basing your end result on whoever the rehabber was doing
Mm-hmm.
that property. And some people are really good at camouflaging and hiding some of the work that they've done. It looks good on the surface, but as soon as you start, taking down walls, or you're looking at the plumbing or the electrical box or the foundation, it's certain things that you can look at a house and immediately say, oh, that's going to cost me some money. You know what I'm saying? So I like, distressed properties. I really do, because I know where I make my money at based on my strengths of being, having very strong relationships and been in this game for so long. I can pull on people I've been doing business with for over a decade and say,
Mm-hmm.
listen, bro, I got a roof. It's going to be a complete tear down. I need you to give me your best price. Don't give me, I'm not trying to squeeze you, but I need you to give me your best. Or, I got electrical. It's going to be a full rewire. Give me your best. And because I've done so much good business over the years, I usually get very, fair rates because they know, hey, Mike's going to be here. You know what I'm saying? You see a lot of people come and go over the years, but like I love saying like, hey, I literally started in 2012, like with my own. That's not even counting when I was involved with properties when my dad got in after the crash in '08. But that's literally when I started purchasing my own properties. And so I still do business with some people from 2012, 2013, and we just reminisce on, the old times and how it's evolved. But that's the long answer. The short answer is I do like to do distressed properties.
Okay, all right. Well, somebody has a question. I was about to get into this too.
Okay.
They said, as a landlord, how do you feel about Section 8? Do you accept Section 8 tenants? We know you're the Section 8 specialist, so
I
can you
was
give
about
us
to
a
say,
little?
the answer is, me personally, I mean, Section 8 is kind of my bread and butter. That's really how I've made, this lane for myself because, once again, I love dealing with my community, my people. And I always say, like, your income level does not determine what type of person you are. Character goes way further than me than whatever you're making. And I'm somebody that, I come from humble beginnings. I understand what it means for being on the other side. And so, yeah, Section 8 doesn't scare me at all. I actually appreciate Section 8 because historically, Section 8 has been one of the most reliable
Mhm,
payment structure that you could ever get involved in. It wasn't until this, presidency that they've ever even started talking about some things with Section 8. But I will tell, because I've had a lot of questions about this. I can honestly attest, like we have a large part of our portfolio Section 8, and up until this point, we have not had any federal interruptions with any payments. There's been a
mhm,
lot of speculation about that, and I always say, we'll see, because I know media is media, and I think they say certain things to scare people away, and cause people to have these inflections. But we haven't had any federal interruptions with payments. And that's including through COVID. And that's another reason why I was so thankful for having Section 8, because I know a lot of my counterparts that had, not a lot of Section 8, that had private paying tenants. When COVID was going on and we had the moratorium on rent,
mhm,
people were going crazy. Like even the people that could pay their rent, a lot of it just wasn't because they didn't have to. And
mhm,
that really destabilized a lot of good investors. Like I mean, it took a lot of them out, to be honest,
mhm.
because they had a mortgage to pay. Even if they didn't have a mortgage, you still got to pay property taxes.
Yeah.
You still have to pay homeowners insurance. You still have service costs, and that's what people don't factor in. People assume you have these houses. Oh man, you just at home diving in your gold like Strules McDuck.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But it's really not the case. But for me, yeah, I don't mind Section 8. I will say this though, to all the people listening and watching, we're very careful and thorough in our screening process with Section 8. We're not the people just if you got a voucher, you can come get one. No, I don't do business like that because I've been around for a while and I just understand that the thought process and mindset around home ownership is like astounding to me these days. When I was coming up, I used to always hear my grandmothers and grandfathers like, listen, if no bills get paid, the one thing that will get paid is my mortgage or my rent. You
Mhm.
gotta have a place to stay. And I grew up like that was a part that's like Bible to me. And somewhere along the lines, that mindset shifted because a lot of people today, they literally they may have the money and They may pay their car note, they may pay their light bill, they may pay, they still may go to Benihana, and then they say, "Oh yeah, I'll get you back on the rent." I was like, "What? Get me back on the rent? Like you playing with your roof?" Um, and so Section 8 does help shield that fall if you do have a tenant that's kind of late on their portion, because hopefully they may have a small portion. But even with that, it's just the mindset is wild. But yeah, I do love, I love Section 8. I mean, they're big partners of mine.
Someone asks, aside from just doing the work, what would you tell a beginner interested in starting in real estate, and where does your capital come from?
Okay, so good question. For me, my capital came from, and this is why I took a while to get in that story. I worked corporate for 13 years, no, nearly 15 years while I was doing real estate. And
Hmm.
I really want people to understand that, because I don't really talk about, I realized one day, I was like, you know what? I don't talk about my corporate life and my credentials that I achieve outside of real estate enough,
Hmm.
because real estate, unlike, like, let's say registered nurses, if I come into the hospital and you happen to have a badge, but you got a mop in your hand, I'm like, yo, I got a serious illness, I need help. You may work here, but you're not as credentialed as this registered nurse,
Hmm.
because we understand the process that she's had to go through, or he had to go through to get that classification, right?
Hmm.
Real estate is one of those lanes that um, anybody can really say they're a real estate investor. I hear a lot of people say they're real estate developers. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, tell me about yourself. And when you start hearing, about their portfolio or their credentials, it's kind of like, oh, okay. So you've been a part of some deals, but you never really completed anything yourself. You've been in for 5 minutes, but you're calling yourself a real estate developer. And I'm not saying that to just, down anybody, but what I'm saying is, like, credentials do matter. Experience does matter, right? And
Hmm.
so the way and the reason why I'm taking a long route explaining this is I literally, saved up a lot of money. Like every paycheck, I got a hold of a book called Richest Man in Babylon.
Hmm.
And this is really biblical, but from here it said, listen, every amount of money, a tenth belongs to you first. And if you a person of faith, then a tenth belongs to God. But then right after that, pay yourself. And so now that's 20%. 80% is what you work with. Okay. And it's really a mindset shift. And I did that for years. So I was just stacking away money, stacking away money. And so I took a slower route. So when somebody asks me, how do you get capital? How do you get capital? I'm not the one that's going to give you the sexy answer. Like, yeah, can you run it up with business credit right now? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Can you go get a line of credit? Can you go get a bunch of business credit cards? Absolutely. Is it fairly easy nowadays? Absolutely. However, this is the thing that people don't talk about. They don't talk about their failures. I know a lot of people that got really jammed up with business credit. I'm talking about really jammed up because they got it real fast, they spent it fast, but they didn't truly have a plan in place. And
Hmm.
so by me taking a long route and actually having to save up, some of this money, I was able to put more money up front. So I
Hmm.
was able to have more ownership, more equity. I was able to fund a higher percent of my rehabs. So
Hmm.
my first initial properties, I wasn't pulling any money out. It was a cash business.
Hmm.
So years later, once I started getting hit to the refinance game, it was just up. That just took us to a whole nother level. But it was only because the foundation was so solid. Like we took our time really saving up, really building brick by brick. And later it was so beneficial because once we got these lumps, we knew all the little nuances. A lot of times, I mean, if I got to go in there, if I ain't had the money, I'd be doing it. People don't realize, they don't see me swinging a hammer now, but it's damn near anything in the house I've done. You know what I'm saying? I've literally put a lot of sweat equity into these houses. And so, and this is the unsexy part. of the business that people don't like. They like the sound bites. Like, oh yeah, let me give you a play. Go run up the business credit. Go do that. But this is the reality of somebody that, I really put in a lot of sweat equity and the capital. I did it the hard way. I did it the long way. But I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people that was around when I was starting, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing something else. That was the first part of the question about the capital. What was the second part?
What would you tell a beginner interested in starting in real estate?
I would tell a beginner, for one, take care of the roof over your head first before you start trying to acquire other roofs. I see that a lot these days too. Like people just automatically start talking about investment properties. Oh, I want to buy this. I can buy that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, where you staying at right now? Well, I'm renting. I got this little, apartment over here, down river. I don't really. I'm like, well, hold on. Let's back it up. Let's back it up. You know what I'm saying? Because this is so. Let me say this. I gotta say this on camera, Denise. And this is all right. So a scenario. This is an analogy. A lot of people nowadays they'll come to me in the middle of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically. They 100 feet. Hey, Mike, I'm out here. I took that leap. I'm in it. What should I do now? And I'm like, I can't swim. Oh, by the way, I can't swim. Bruh, you got a life vest? No, I don't got a life vest. First, hey, live. Swim, like, live. If you got to live long enough to make it back to shore on
Mm-hmm.
solid ground. Because what you should have did was talk to somebody like me before you even went out there in that ocean. But this is where you at. I'm not a miracle worker. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wave a magic wand and say, you know what? Get them back on solid ground, and then we're gonna do, X, Y, Z. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what I find with a lot of situations, like people, like, I bought these 3 houses. Um, I got some renters. Nobody's paying. They called the city on me. They're doing this. All right, hold on, bro. Like, slow it down. Like, that's a tough situation. So for beginners, my biggest piece of advice is, for one, take care of the roof over your own head before looking at others. But then number two, submerge yourself in this business. If this is really what you want. Matter of fact, that's number two. Number three is submerge yourself. But number two is really figure out if this is the business for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because this business is kind of like being married, but being married and also being a boxer, professional boxer.
Mm-hmm.
Being married because you committed for sickness or health. You got to be committed. Being a boxer because it's a contact sport. You're going to take some hits in this game. It's a part of the game. And if you are not ready for that and you need a little bit more time, or you kind of think, you like the idea of making some money, but you don't really know if you want to do that, I would suggest spend a little bit more time doing your research, educating yourself. Bigger Pockets on YouTube. This is a great resource. I used to watch Bigger Pocket YouTubes every single day. And every deal that came up, I would run it by myself. Matter of fact, this is number 4 I would recommend. If you do decide this is a business for you, you submerge yourself in it. Run deals daily as if they're yours. Even if you don't have the money in your bank account right now. That's not, don't even let that be a thing, because what I had to do was recondition my mind into understanding that, like, money is not real.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't. Like, if we were in a severe drought and I had this cup of water, this could be money. You want this $1,000 because I got it. You need it, $1,000. That's money. It's what we put value on. And once I reconditioned my mind into this, when I was running deals, I told myself the money's there. It's in the bank account. I can't see it, but it's there. So when I was running deals, and it might be a Redfin, Zillow, I'm just looking at or I talk to a realtor, Denetra. Hey, Denetra, send me a couple listings. This is my criteria. I'm running a deal. I may not have $5 in my bank account, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
running them. Okay, does this make sense? What's the ARV? Okay, cool. How much is my expected rehab? Okay, cool. Does this deal make sense? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And 70% of the deals, you'll be able to kind of just move away from your your stratosphere just by running it. But
Mm-hmm.
then those 30%, you can actually like get in the nitty. That's the type of things that I like having conversations on. The
Mm-hmm.
70% is kind of like 90% of the questions people ask me is the first 10% of real estate. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same questions over and over and over. But when you show me like, yo, you've done 70% of your own legwork, and now you're at a point where like, hey, I could go three different routes. If I go route A, this is gonna put me here. Or I go route B, this is what it's gonna look like. I go route C. Mike, if you was in this situation, what would you do? All right, cool. I can work with this. I love this because this is where you really need somebody like Mike that has a lot of experience. On the first 10%, it's like most of these people, they really just want you to cheer them on. They want to almost like get some of your energy, your confidence, just so that they keep going. And it's just like sports. Like I tell my sons, I got four sons. If I gotta be the one, hey, come on, son, let's go, let's get some reps in. Let's do your push-ups. Bro, you probably ain't got it, dog. You know what I'm saying? Because it got I'm just real. People like, damn, I keep it real because life is gonna keep it real. I can't lie to you.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna ask you about the numbers and stuff. You kind of touched on it a little bit. When
I'm
you're
stealing
looking
your
at
thunder. Slow
no,
me
no,
down,
no,
Denise.
you
Look, give
did.
me a check. Give me a check.
uh, when you looking at a property, what numbers are you paying attention to first, and what's a deal breaker for you?
hmm And like I said, what's funny is let me say this too for the people. You could probably answer this because these are real questions that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And this the reason why I want to slow this down is I'm not just randomly doing these. I actually get asked to do this type of stuff a lot, but I look at the people behind it. Love supporting you because I see you pushing your own vehicle. Like you really you're the biggest proponent in your own race. And so it's nothing for me to like, you know what? I wanna be a part of supporting her. So we've talked about this before. But my thing is everything is based on ARV. People always like I get wholesalers, realtors. What's your budget? What type of property you looking for? What's it? Somebody said a little crack. Yeah, I think she was a realtor. So she was like, let me guess, what you like 50,000? I said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I don't my number is based on the ARV always.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is the after repair value. So if the house after repair value, after it's acquired, fully rehabbed, what the appraisal and comp say it'll get, let's say it's worth 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. If it's worth 500,000, my anticipated rehab is 100,000. My acquisition is 100,000. I'm 200 in. That makes sense because I'm below my 70 to 75% all in costs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's the key. I want to be 70 to 75% all in based off the ARV. And what I mean by that, let's give a little bit more of a more realistic example that in my wheelhouse is let's say the ARV is 200,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? About 70, 75% of that will be 150,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can acquire the house for, let's say, 50,000 and I have a $50,000 rehab, which is this is an actual scenario I've done more than a few times. I'm all in at 100,000. Acquisition was 50, rehab was 50. I'm all in at 100,000. If I can acquire and rehab at or below 70 to 75%, I can keep looking at the deal. That scenario looks good. And the reason why I say at 70 to 75% is a few different reasons. For one, that gives me a little buffer. If something goes wrong, my rehab, I get a couple unknowns. It's a little higher than I anticipated. I still have that 30 to 25% buffer. I still have some equity to play with. It's not going to kill the deal. Also, if I need to pull money or I choose to pull money out of it, I can do a DSCR refinance. And usually it's a rule of thumb. Most lenders will give you up to 70 to 75% LTV, which is loan to value. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, if your loan is 75% of what the ultimate value is, that 100, all right? So that's really the long and the short of it. Like whatever the ARV is, if it's above 70 to 75% of the ARV, I'm not even gonna look at it. It's a quick no. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So we put real numbers to it. $200,000 ARV, and the acquisition and rehab is gonna cost me at or above 150,000. I'm not even gonna look at the deal. That's just not a deal for me. You know what I'm saying? But if all in, I'm at 100, 125, maybe we might have something to work with. Now I got to look at, okay, is it a brick house? Is it vinyl siding? Is it colonial? You know, what's the block look like? Is the
Mm-hmm.
block stabilized? You know, is it a good healthy block that looks like it's going to be here 20 to 30 years from now? Or is it like, you know, we got a couple good houses and you know, we got like 3 or 4 vacants, you know, and so that's the process that I go through. You know, just being a person that, you know, we're pretty intense about how we make our decision, but that's one of the quick and easy ways to either say we're going to go forward or we're just going to stop the deal right now. Is it at or below 70, let's say 70% loan to
Mm-hmm.
value of the ARV?
Okay. Let me ask this question. I know that you said you started off with buying the houses cash and everything. So now that you're in it, are you still just using cash, or are you pulling money from the properties? And what do you pay attention to when you buying the property? Is it, the appreciation of it, or just pulling out equity and cash flow?
No, that's a good question. So now I do play um I like the DSCR refinances because I always tell people, like, when you talk to old school investors, that's one thing about old school. They always want to talk about the old days, right? Oh man, back in the day, man, you can get this, but you know what I'm saying? And I had to check myself from doing that too, because it's like, hey, reality is the same back in the day, right? But it's a double-edged blade. You know,
Mm-hmm.
acquisition prices have definitely gone up, but appraisal prices have too.
Mm-hmm.
Rents have gone up also. And so when I look at it, like, you know, it is what it is. Like, I'm going to pay a little bit more on the front end, but my appraisal is going to be a little nicer. So I actually like doing DSCR refinances now. Like, it's really kind of like something I look forward to because, for one, I get to check my intuition. Like, all right, are my numbers really on point? Like I think they are, you know. And is you don't know your numbers until you get that final appraisal. Like, that final appraisal is the expert opinion of value. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what it is. And so for me, I just play a little game to see how close I can get to that. But a rule of thumb that I always like to keep usually about 3 doors, just free and clear. Just for a
Mm-hmm.
rainy day. Me personally, I just call that's my rainy day. It used to be closer to 5. But now, you know, my team is growing more. We're adding more people. We have more entities, more payroll. So I'm like, you know what? Let me strategically tap into some of the equity that we've acquired over the years through, you know, either appreciation, just, you know, acquisitions. Let me use some of that for cash flow versus using just straight cash because, yeah, you do have a little bit more freedom with cash, but it does limit your options also, you know, when you're just doing cash deals. So it's kind of a little bit of a hybrid strategy, right? I still believe in cash. I still believe in equity, you know, just paying in as much as you can to have your freedom. But I'm definitely not opposed to strategically using DSCR refinances when it makes sense.
Okay. All right. All right, so let's get into some fatherhood questions. What does generational wealth mean to you being a father?
So generational wealth for me means starting something that is able to live, thrive, and survive long after I'm gone. You know, for me, I have 4 biological sons. But
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of mentees that they look at me like they father figures. I look at them like my sons, and one thing I always tell people, it's something that my stepdad told me when I was young. Men have a different experience than women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fathers and mothers, like we don't physically birth any kids. Like I haven't had any one of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
She got pregnant. Some things happened. She got pregnant, and she told me, "Yo, these your kids." And it was like, okay, cool. These my kids. I love them. I love them from as soon as I see them. And my stepdad told me that when I was young. He's like, "Look, you my son, because I say you my son. I love you as my son." And so, for me, when I look at what I'm doing now, including like what we did this past weekend with the block party, I want to help create foundations and just things that can survive beyond me. Like if it takes Mike being here in the physical to make
Mm-hmm.
it go, that's not strong enough, right? Because I need the other people around me to be able to take these ideas and just run and just whatever God put in them, just grow it and magnify it. So that's what generational wealth means to me, having the means to be able to invest while that, this is a baby right now. The vision is still in the baby state. And while it's a baby, you got to make sure the baby survives and becomes strong enough to live on his own. And so that takes investment. A lot of things that I do, people don't realize I put up, a lot of my own money to make it happen because it means a lot to me. And a lot of times I just make my peace with it. Like if nothing else comes in, I'm good with it. Like these kids got to get fed. Yeah, I'm gonna chip in. I'm gonna put up what needs to be put up. Or if something needs to happen and everybody kind of looking around like who gonna pay that, it's cool. Don't worry about it. Let's keep it going because I don't want the vision to die. And money is gonna come and go. I look like I just told y'all earlier. Money not real. Not saying I don't respect money. I do respect money, but I don't ever put money above real like lived experience.
Okay. Mm. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's ask this. One book every investor should read right now.
Mm. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you asked. And so if anybody knows me, like I'm an avid book reader. Like I love books, right? So off top, this is a classic. Everybody will probably say this, but it just really is what it is. Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
That changed my life, right? That literally changed my life because
Me too.
it forced me to, just it rewired my mental software. Another book that may not be as popular is Who Moved My Cheese.
Mm.
That's a good one. Who
What
Moved
is
My
it?
Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese?
By who?
I don't know who the author is, but it's a book that is just talking about change and how do you adapt to change, and you have choices, and some people will adapt and keep moving, go find new cheese, and some
Mm.
people will just sit and just reminisce like, man, somebody took my cheese, and like that's all they doing. They get stuck in that cycle, and so it kind of allows you to like look at how you can approach different situations. I would say The Psychology of Money is one of my favorites. I'm gonna say something that different. This is one that you probably never have heard. I would be curious if you ever have heard this. But the narrative of the autobiography of Frederick Douglass.
I do have his book, but I didn't read it. I ain't gonna
There,
lie.
see, a lot of people on the surface they want to look at that as an investment book, but that book is a book that I read almost annually. Like I've probably read it probably like 10 times. And because it's so deep where you look at a book that was published in 1845, right? Slavery wasn't abolished until 1865. So you have somebody that his first half of his book, he's literally talking about his lived experience from being a slave. And the second half of the book is talking about overcoming that and then doing everything that he did the rest of his life. And so to
Mhm.
me, it's one of those books that's not an easy read. It's not like a feel good read. But it's so critical to our history that whenever I come through like challenges in real estate or hard times, or I feel like, man, I don't know if I can go on. Like I think about things like that. Like, yo, this dude wrote and published a book in a time, you know what I'm saying? Like the audacity of that. So that's one that I really recommend people go check out or reread if they've read it already.
Okay. Okay. All right, last two questions. The biggest lesson you've learned as an investor.
The biggest lesson I've learned as an investor is play your own game. Like really, play your own game. Like understand who you are, what your core identity is, what your principles are, and just live them daily. And let that be your guiding light, not anything else. Because I can honestly say I've made some mistakes in this game. And early, a lot of it was just like ignorance. I just didn't know. I was
Mhm.
learning on the job. It was the hard knock life, right? And I was learning as I went. But later, some of the mistakes that really weren't losses, that were lessons, is I allowed profit potential to creep in versus
Mhm.
just using my core like thermostat. Because I got a real good thermostat on people. I can read people really well. And a few times when I've done a couple different things, I was looking at it like make some money, you know what I'm saying? It
Mhm.
might be a good deal. And we did make money, we did make money, but it didn't feel good, it didn't feel great, you know what I mean? And so for me, I would say, understand the game that you want to play, what your true core principles are as a man or a woman, and whatever you have to do, live those out day to day. Whatever the scoreboard takes you on that, you'll be content with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I may or may not be the biggest investor in Detroit. I don't really care. That's not the game I'm playing. I'm not trying to be the biggest. I want to be just authentic to the people that I really love and care about.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Would you leave a first time someone that wants to get into real estate investing? What was something that you would leave with them today?
For somebody that wants to get into real estate today,
Mm. Mm.
um, I would say going back to my earlier advice, like really submerge yourself in information and knowledge. Like we're living in a time where it's unlike any other time. Like, I didn't have ChatGPT when I was coming up. I don't even know if I had Google or I wasn't even using Google. It was really a lot of things was like word of mouth. You had to be in the right rooms to understand.
Yeah.
Now you do have information, but
Mhm.
it's a double-edged blade. You have information overload to where it's a lot of nonsense. You have a lot of people that they may have gotten a level 3 and then they're
Mhm.
like talking as if they're experts, but they ain't never been to level 10. They
Mhm.
don't know what's coming at level 12, and that's where it's a little scary. Like, do your own research, submerge yourself in reputable information, but be careful about just going towards like shiny objects.
Mhm.
Going back to your strategy, understand what strategy you want. Like, flipping can be a great game, but
Mhm.
understand the true like cost of flipping, what it comes with. What does a flipper's life look like day to day, year to year, month to month? Like really, really understand that because um it's a different type of life. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's not that consistent income. And in real estate investing period is a different type of life. It's not the life you want to get in if you just want, predictable days every day and kind of, just easy peasy. Let me clock in. Let me just do my 8 hours and then clock out and I'm done with it. Like this is not the game for that. So understand what it comes with in the beginning. And if you make your peace with it, understand like it can be very fruitful though. Like this game is very fruitful if it's for you. Like, you have freedom, you have things you can be proud about. For me, just allowing somebody to have a beautiful house experience. Like I love seeing a family in a house that I put together that people gave up on.
Mhm.
They walk by it like this house is here. They need to tear it down. and now it's a beautiful house. You got a family living in. They're gonna have memories in that house. You know, so for
Mhm.
me, that's what drives me. I guess so. The short advice is just really understand, like, if you want to be in this game for real, and if you do, just do what it takes to do it right. Just do it the right way. That'd be the strength. Do it the right way, man, because it's a lot of people playing real estate. I call it playing real estate.
Mhm.
They don't watch the Instagrams, they watch the YouTubes, man. They just doing it wrong, man. And so it alters a lot of people's experience when it
Mhm.
comes to real estate. That's, to me, that's not fair because it's a game that I truly love.
Yeah. Do you offer mentorship?
I don't do like the courses and classes right now. I kind of how I do mentor. I mentor youth, so we
Okay.
mentor high school males. We mentor some seventh, eighth grade males. And
Mhm.
let me say this. This is the reason why. I'm gonna be honest. Adults are tough sometimes because they got their mind up. They want to do what they want. And like I said, I sit back and I observe more than like offer mentor. But if I see somebody and I've been observing them for a few years and I see they're really committed and they really are trying. I'm pretty open. Like, I mean, I think you seen me a little bit. Like, I don't
Mhm.
really turn people down when they want to talk, as long as they come in with the right energy. Um, but for me to, like, commit to that, because I understand the commitment it's gonna take,
Yeah.
I don't really, yeah, I don't do that loosely. So I would say
Mhm.
the short answer is no.
Okay.
But if, like I said, man, if I see people really grinding,
Mhm.
or if it's young people, I love working with young people just because I feel that young people are more moldable and open. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? People like adult, everybody kind of, a lot of people just they got their own way of doing things, and that's cool. It's all good. But yeah, so I'll just leave
Okay.
that at that.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming on
No, thank
tonight and
you.
dropping all these gems. This was really nice. Where can the people find you if they wanna, just reach out to you for questions or find your brand?
Yeah, so the brand is blockdetroit.com. That's BLCK, no O. And that stands for Building Legacy, Cultivate Knowledge. And it's ironic that you asked that question because, I mean, this our brand literally is based around like mentorship and just educating each other. But it's just in the form that we want to show the authentic race versus we just meet every weekend and just have a coffee and just talk. We just want to show you, like, look, this is what we've actually done. We really committed to doing over the past 15 years. And guess what? We shed some light. You could do it too, because
Hmm.
we're giving you real data. So Block Detroit, you can get some merch, but my Instagram, Detroit Investor underscore WCI. And I have another one, Mike dot investor, the investor.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. And thank you to everyone watching tonight. If you missed part of this, all of my live replays are inside of my real estate community with the link in my bio. Thank you, everybody. And y'all have a good night. See you.
No, peace. No, thank you for doing this too.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.